Chapter 281, slightly increase the difficulty. Qian Renshui's 8th spirit abilities were Divine Flame Sacred Domain and Angel Phantom. Divine Flame Sacred Domain formed a sanctified field of flames. Inside it, all her attributes doubled. She commanded the sacred fire, suppressed the enemy's spirit power by 20%, restricted their movement, and exerted an additional 50% suppression against evil attributed spirits. Angel Phantom condensed an angelic semblance that could unleash countless light feathers to strike foes. These feathers could coalesce into a giant sword of light, boosting her attack power by 150% while it struck. Sister, you finished absorbing the spirit ring? Yeshi opened her eyes, watched Qian Renshui rise, and got up from the ground. Yes, my spirit rank is 82 now, and I gained 2 very practical spirit abilities. Qian Renshui nodded and scanned the others. How about the 3rd assessment? Have you tried it? We haven't, Yeshi said, spreading her hands with a nonchalant look. We're waiting for you. Besides, tidal body tempering isn't something you complete in a hurry. Even if Tian Yao, Du Guyan, and Ye Lingling don't need a trial and can start the formal assessment immediately, it will still take at least a year. Qian Renshui watched the 3 meditating cultivators and smiled faintly. Body refining always demands time. And one of the spirit abilities I just got might help with their tempering. She leaned in to whisper to Yeshi. Yeshi's eyes brightened. Her gaze shifted subtly toward Tian Yao, Du Guyan, and Ye Lingling. Their plans aligned. Yeshi had intended to use her spirit ability to assist the others, and Qian Renshui's new power could enhance that. The 3 seated cultivators opened their eyes at the same moment and, seeing the looks exchanged between Yeshi and Qian Renshui, couldn't help but shiver. Something ominous seemed to be brewing. Tian Yao, young lord, what's that look? Tian Yao cleared her throat and kept glancing between the 2. Nothing, Yeshi said coolly. Prepare yourselves. We're going to inspect the 3rd assessment site. She waved a hand, though her gaze was fixed on the sea god hall. Poseidon emerged from the hall a few strides later and motioned for them to follow. Yeshi, Qian Renshui, Tian Yao, Du Guyan, Ye Lingling, and the rest trailed behind. Soon they reached a 100-meter-tall black barren peak overlooking a sunken valley that cut into Sea God Island. The valley bent inward from the shore for several hundred meters. Where the ocean met it, calm seas turned into furious surf that smashed against the rocks below. This is your assessment location. Poseidon's voice carried easily across the wind. This sunken valley was carved by the waves. You will attempt tidal body tempering here. 9 spirit rings, 8 black and 1 red, appeared beneath Poseidon's feet. A sea blue light emanated from the spirit behind her, bathing the valley in a soft glow and suppressing the seawater. Gray pillars rose from the surface of the sea. Tian Yao, Du Guyan, and Ye Lingling watched the display in awe, but Yeshi and Qian Renshui's attention went straight to those pillars. Shallow sea silver, Yeshi murmured. That's a huge piece. Must weigh at least 100,000 caddies. A real treasure. Shallow sea silver was an ultra-rare material on the continent, used to forge priceless weapons and other rare items. A good chunk could be worth as much as gold. Often it was priceless. There are 7 shallow sea silver pillars, Poseidon said. They were placed here by the sea god Seed Senior long ago and cannot be moved or damaged. We wouldn't dream of damaging them, Yeshi replied with a smile, though inwardly she'd briefly fantasized about cutting off a piece with her slaughter sword for her Frost Snow Pavilion and Snowy Domain City. It would have been useful. You can sit on the shallow sea silver to test the intensity of the tidal body tempering, Poseidon continued. When you're ready to begin the official assessment, come to the Sea God Hall and find me. With that, she stepped back toward the island. When Poseidon left, Yeshi and Qian Renshui exchanged glances, tapped their toes, and landed on separate shallow sea silver pillars. Sitting cross-legged, they tested the tidal body tempering. Without Poseidon's suppression, the seawater below immediately surged into towering waves that pounded toward them. The waves struck, but both remained unmoved on their pillars. The intensity is fine, Qian Renshui breathed out. Tian Yao, Yan Yan, Ling Ling, come feel it. Yeshi beckoned. The 3 complied and settled on the remaining shallow sea silver pillars. The waves crashed against each pillar with relentless force. Apart from Ye Lingling, whose body swayed slightly, the others felt steady. How does it feel? Yeshi asked. All right, no problem so far, Tianyao answered earnestly. I'm fine, Duguyan said, nodding. Yi Lingling's voice remained cool and even. Then I'll slightly increase the difficulty for you. Behind Yeshi, the slaughter angel spirit manifested. 6 spirit rings, 3 purple, 2 black, and 1 red, flickered in the air. 6th spirit ability, Sigh of Ice and Snow. The blood-red ring pulsed fiercely, and from Yeshi's body as the center, a wave of intense cold radiated outward, coating the air and the pounding surf in a biting frost. Chapter 282, Ice and Fire. Inside the bitter cold, Tianyao, Duguyan, and Ye Lingling's eyes widened. The air around them chilled noticeably. Even their wet clothes began to frost over. The sea roared and waves smashed against them. They shivered involuntarily from the cold. When they saw ice crystals on Yeshi and Qian Renshui's garments as well, none of them complained. They endured it in silence. Too cold isn't good, Qian Renshui said softly. I'll help you all. She released her spirit. Her blood-red spirit ring flashed, and she intoned 8th spirit ability, Divine Flame Holy Domain. A domain of sacred divine fire bloomed above them. Scorching heat poured down and met the biting cold, so they felt every degree of their skin at once, cold and searing together. Waves still struck them from time to time. Yeshi and Qian Renshui closed their eyes and sat calmly on the shallow sea silver, but Tianyao, Duguyan, and Ye Lingling could not relax. Even Tianyao, with the strongest physique, grew uncomfortable. Ye Lingling, the weakest of the 3, clenched her hands and had to steady her breathing, yet she gritted her teeth and persevered. The ordeal was unpleasant, but it was effective for refining their bodies and tempering their physiques. Minutes slipped by. After half an hour, Ye Lingling was the first to give up. She stepped down from the deep-sea silver pillar and found a quiet place to sit, catching her breath. Duguyan lasted 20 minutes longer. Tianyao endured for about 4 hours before he finally stepped down. When he left, Yeshi and Qian Renshui retracted their spirits and followed. You still need to keep at it, Yeshi said as she fixed her gaze on Ye Lingling. But don't be discouraged. Body tempering isn't done overnight. It's a cumulative process. Her tone was earnest. Between Duguyan and Ye Lingling, Yeshi favored Ye Lingling the most. If she could, she would help Ye Lingling rise to a god position. Yeshi knew of the 9-colored goddess in the god realm and thought 9-colored paired well with the 9-heart begonia. They would complement each other. If possible, she also hoped to help Duguyan and those around her aim for a god position. How to do that? She would ask Asura god for guidance the next time she saw him, or learn it herself when she became a divinity. For now, she simply wanted them to become as outstanding as possible. Then perhaps divinities would notice them without them having to search for a legacy. We'll work hard, young miss, Tianyao said solemnly. Ye Lingling nodded heavily. Duguyan agreed as well. Let's go back and get some good rest. Qian Renshui said, glancing at the time. Tomorrow we'll come back for more tidal tempering. She stroked Yeshi's hair. Yeshi met her look and was the first to head for their residence. Tianyao, Duguyan, Ye Lingling, and the others followed and returned to their rooms. Qian Renshui closed the door casually, reached out, and hugged Yeshi around the waist. Sheer, let's take a bath first, Qian Renshui murmured, smiling as she rested her head on Yeshi's shoulder. Yeshi nodded, and they walked into the bathroom together. A faint thought flickered through Yeshi's blue eyes as the door closed behind them. Pavilion Master of Frost Snow Pavilion, the youngest slaughter god in Slaughter City, the youngest prince of the Heaven Do Empire, the top genius in Heaven Do City. As Asura god's inheritor, could she always allow herself to be pushed around? Maybe she should try to fight back. Water ran and soft, indistinct sounds came from behind the bathroom door. Time passed quietly. When the water stopped, the door opened, and Qian Renshui carried Yeshi out and laid her on the bed. Watching the fatigue on Yeshi's face, she twirled a strand of hair between her fingers. Sheer, isn't it a bit early to be thinking about rebelling? Qian Renshui teased, flicking Yeshi's forehead with amusement. Yeshi was silent. She pulled the blanket up and closed her eyes. Clearly she had been lectured. She accepted it with the sleepy composure of someone used to such teasing. Qian Renshui drew the curtains, hugged Yeshi around the waist, closed her eyes, and soon fell asleep. Dawn came. The sky was just lightening when Tian Yao stepped out and walked straight to the shore of the Ring Sea. He scanned the waters as if searching for something. Spotting Xiaobai, he waved. "You're up early," Tian Yao called. Xiaobai rose from the surf, a wash of gray-blue light on her coat, and regarded him quietly. "I've rested enough. I came out for a walk." Tian Yao produced a small box of pastries from his spirit tool and sat on the shore. "Xiaobai, I want to ask you something." Xiaobai narrowed her eyes and sat beside him. "What is it?" Tian Yao offered the pastries. "You're the Sea God's mount, and I'm now the Sea God's inheritor, undergoing the Sea God 9 Trials assessment. Can you take me out on the sea? I want to feel what it's like." Xiaobai reached for a pastry and bit into it. "Oh, these are good," she said, surprised. "They're from Spirit City. Sea God Island doesn't have things like this." Tian Yao put another box down. "So about the ride?" Xiaobai accepted the pastries, then shook her head. "No." Tian Yao blinked. "You already took the offering. You can't just say no." "I told you," Xiaobai replied, mouth half full. "You can't bribe me." Tian Yao moved to take a pastry back. Ye Shi said this kind of thing is called accepting bribes among humans, and if I take something but don't do anything for it, then it's not bribery, Xiaobai interrupted, flicking aside and snatching the pastries. With a graceful leap, she disappeared back into the sea. Chapter 283, Miss, what did you teach? Looking out over the rippling sea, Tian Yao clenched her hands into fists, her beautiful eyes brimming with resentment and anger. "Xiao, Bai," she hissed. But no matter how loud she called, Xiaobai did not emerge from the water. Panting with fury, Tian Yao finally stomped away from the shore and headed for her room. "Darn it, how can someone act like that? What does you accept the bribe but don't do anything even mean? Young miss, what did you teach these past few days? How did you turn innocent Xiaobai into such a cunning creature?" she muttered to herself. "Wait a minute, Xiaobai isn't exactly normal." Her gaze drifted involuntarily toward the room where Ye Shi and Qian Renshui were staying, and a flicker of resentment crossed her face. It wasn't so much about the boxes of pastries as about being outsmarted. Even if it was only a small trick for a few treats, Tian Yao couldn't help feeling annoyed. Out at sea, Xiaobai sat on a reef with a few pastry boxes on her lap, nibbling contentedly and watching the shore. A faint smile warmed her gray-blue eyes. "The sea god's legacy holder is a bit naive," she mused. "How do they say it in the human world? Oh, to be robbed and still help count the loot." Delighted, Xiaobai finished 2 boxes of pastries in quick order. She thought for a moment about the few pastries left, set them aside for later, and then dove into the sea, disappearing in a blink. 8 a.m. Du Guyan stepped out of her room and immediately noticed Tian Yao pressed against a nearby door, listening intently. Du Guyan tiptoed over, reached out to pat Tian Yao's shoulder, and lowered her voice. "Tian Yao, what are you listening to?" Startled by the touch and the sudden voice, Tian Yao gasped. "When did you get here?" she whispered, patting her chest as if to reassure herself. "Just arrived." "What were you listening to in Ye Shi's room?" Du Guyan asked, curious, and tried to press her ear to the door as well. At that moment, the door opened, revealing a pair of clear blue eyes. "What are you two doing?" Ye Shi asked, adjusting her collar. Her voice was calm, but her gaze sharpened as she looked them over. Sensing the slight danger in Ye Shi's eyes, Du Guyan edged back a little. "Young miss, I was just passing by," she stammered. Tian Yao answered with mock-offended seriousness, then turned a sly look on Du Guyan. "Yan Yan, what are you doing at young miss's door?" Tian Yao had known Ye Shi since childhood and could read her expressions well. There was a subtle warning in those blue eyes. Following the unspoken rule of sacrifice a teammate, save myself, she decided to throw Du Guyan under the bus. Better to share the blame than take it all. Du Guyan, bewildered, pointed at herself. "Me? Tian Yao, you're framing me." Before she could protest further, Ye Shi spoke smoothly from the doorway. "It's been a long time since the All-Continent Elite Academy tournament. I'll be your sparring partner and see how much your strength has improved." Ye Shi offered a gentle smile. Du Guyan tried to hide her dread with a forced, bitter grin. And no need. The next instant, the air filled with falling ice swords. Du Guyan's 6th spirit ability, Ice Sword Judgment, manifested, scattering crystalline blades through the garden. From her window, Ye Lingling watched the swords cascade, then sprang into action. She spread her hands, lifted the nine-heart begonia, and watched the two combatants with a calm, reassuring look. A moment later at the dining table, Ye Shi and Qian Renshui sat across from each other, enjoying breakfast. Meanwhile, Ye Lingling used the nine-heart begonia to heal the minor scrapes on Tian Yao and Du Guyan. The wounds were superficial and mended quickly beneath the flower's restorative power. "Good sister," Tian Yao said with a nod to Ye Lingling, looping an arm around Du Guyan as if they were the closest of friends. Du Guyan could only shoot Tian Yao a resentful look. She'd been put in an awkward spot, and she knew it. "Everyone, come and eat breakfast," Qian Renshui announced. "After breakfast, we'll do the tidal body tempering." She elegantly dabbed her mouth with a handkerchief and, catching Ye Shi's eye, reached up to stroke the silver tabby curled in Ye Shi's lap. She was perfectly practiced at soothing the bristly little cat. After breakfast, they all went to the sunken valley for tidal body tempering. Ye Shi and Qian Renshui released their spirit power to assist Tian Yao, Du Guyan, and Ye Lingling through the regimen. Life settled into a steady routine: temper by day, recover and cultivate by night. Time slipped by, and by the third month, everyone had reached the basic requirements for the assessment, so Poseidon could officially begin the tidal body tempering appraisal. The assessment would last 365 days. Apart from necessary breaks, the cultivators spent most of their time on the deep-sea silver pillar. Du Guyan and Ye Lingling only needed a few hours each session. Tian Yao, as one of the participants of the Sea God 9 trials, had to endure 12 hours. Early one morning, a gentle sea breeze brushed Ye Shi's silver hair as she sat cross-legged on the silver pillar. Asura God's voice echoed in her mind. "Don't forget your second assessment." "I know," Ye Shi replied. "I won't forget." When she opened her clear blue eyes, the scenery around her was already shifting. In a space washed with red, Asura God stood before her, motionless. "Good to know you remember." The god's tone was mild. Ye Shi hesitated, then asked, "Senior, I have a small question. Some of my friends have decent talent. Do you think any of them could become legacy holders of a divinity?" Chapter 284. Xiao Bai, do you want to come with me first? The Asura God stroked his chin, a pensive look settling over his face. He didn't answer Ye Shi's question right away. She didn't press him, quietly waiting. After a moment, he spoke slowly. "There are many divinities in the god realm who have left legacies on the continent for their fated successors. Only those of exceptional talent have any real chance of becoming a divinity's heir. Some divinities haven't set up legacies at all. I can inquire for you if you like, but whether you catch any of them I can't promise." Ye Shi smiled, gratitude plain in her expression. "Thank you, Senior." Asura God waved a hand dismissively. "Watch your time. Don't delay your assessment." No sooner had he finished than the surrounding space fractured like a mirror. Her sight blurred, the scene dissolved, and reality reassembled. Ye Shi rose from the deep-sea silver pillar, landed lightly in the sunken valley, and counted the time. Only about half a year remained until the end of her second assessment. That was enough if she could defeat the Slaughter King in one strike, but if the Slaughter King escaped, she couldn't predict how long it would take. "What's wrong, Xier?" Qian Renshui's voice came from beside her. "Sister, I need to leave Sea God Island first to complete my second assessment," Qian Renshui said. Ye Shi's expression grew serious as she turned to her. I'll go with you. We're only assisting with the assessment, so whether we're on Sea God Island or the mainland doesn't matter." Qian Renshui considered for a moment. "All right, I'll first instruct Tian Yao, Yan Yan, and Ling Ling. Then we'll pay our respects to Senior Poseidon before leaving." Ye Shi looked toward the three who were undergoing tidal body tempering. "Tian Yao, Yan Yan, Ling Ling, my sister and I need to leave Sea God Island for a while. Continue your assessments here. The tidal body tempering is excellent for body tempering, so don't be lazy." "We know," they replied in unison, Du Guyan, Ye Lingling, and Tian Yao answering together. Ye Shi nodded and, with Qian Renshui, walked toward the Sea God Hall. They bowed gently before Poseidon, who sat before his statue. "Senior, we have matters to attend to and will be leaving Sea God Island for a time," Ye Shi said quietly. Poseidon inclined his head. "Do you want Xiao Bai to see you off?" "No trouble necessary, Senior. We can leave on our own," Ye Shi replied, and then she and Qian Renshui stepped out of the hall. They called for Ling Yuan and made for the coast. On the sea surface, Xiaobai lounged, sunning himself. Ye Shi approached and said, Xiaobai, we need to leave Sea God Island for a while. Do you want to come with me to the mainland and wait for Tian Yao there? Xiaobai opened his eyes at once. Are you leaving first? I won't go yet. I'll wait for Tian Yao. By the way, those pastries Tian Yao gave me last time were really good. They're from Spirit City, right? When you come back, if I haven't gone to the mainland, you can bring me some. He swam up to Ye Shi, gray-blue eyes bright. Okay, if you're still on the island when I visit, bring some. Ye Shi smiled and nodded, then released her spirit. She opened a spatial rift with her ability and felt her spirit power drain quickly. It's still too far, she murmured. I'll need to travel through space twice. Hand in hand, Ye Shi and Qian Renshui stepped into the rift. Ling Yuan followed a half-step behind. The rift closed behind them, leaving Xiaobai to consider his next move. After a moment, he swam off toward where Tian Yao and the others were. In the sunken valley, Tian Yao sat cross-legged on the deep-sea silver pillar, watching the faint figure on the sea. A bold idea had formed. She had fished before, but never for a devil spirit great white shark. The thought excited her. She took out a fishing rod, removed the hook, pulled a box of pastries from her spirit tool, tied them to the line, and cast. The pastries hung on the water's surface like tempting bait. Du Guyan and Ye Lingling watched, baffled. Tian Yao, what are you doing? Ye Lingling asked softly. To see Xiaobai, Tian Yao replied without taking her eyes off the sea. Xiaobai really likes these pastries. I want to see if I can reel him in. That's a good idea. The bait will definitely attract him, Du Guyan said. But do you think Xiaobai can take on human form? Ye Lingling's voice carried a hint of curiosity. Tian Yao barely answered before she felt the fishing rod tug. On the water stood Xiaobai, in human form, peacefully taking a pastry from the line. He steadied himself on the surface, chewing with a playful, challenging look, as if to say, Is that all you've got? For a breathless moment, everything went silent. Tian Yao stared at the rod in her hand. This was not how she'd pictured the scene. In her mind's plan, Xiaobai would bite, she'd snap the rod and haul him in. Reality, of course, had other ideas. A huge wave suddenly slammed across her, drenching her and pulling her thoughts back to the present. Tian Yao knew exactly whose handiwork that wave was. Xiaobai, she said quietly, more composed than before. She'd had practice. Xiaobai sat on the water, legs dangling, savoring the pastries, watching Tian Yao from beneath half-lidded eyes. Does it feel like Xiaobai's mocking me? Tian Yao muttered, turning to Du Guyan and Ye Lingling. Chapter 285, Take the Angel Sword. Several days later, in Spirit City, a spatial rift opened on a small path paved with bluestone. When the rift fully formed, Ye Shi, Qian Renshui, and Ling Yan stepped out. Qian Renshui looked around at the familiar surroundings with admiration. Seer, your spatial ability is incredibly convenient. A trip that would have taken months only took a few days, Ye Shi replied. Qian Renshui took Ye Shi's hand as they walked. It's convenient, but it eats up a lot of spirit power. Using spatial ability over long distances is still pretty taxing on you right now. Ye Shi exhaled and felt the faint, depleted presence of spirit power within her. Over the past few days, she had used her spatial power 7 times, which was why they could return to Spirit City so quickly. Each use nearly drained her spirit power completely. She could only open another rift after she had fully recovered. Let's go to the Hall of Offerings first, she said. Tell Grandpa about your second Shura trial, then go rest in your room, Qian Renshui added gently. They walked to the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Seeing that Bibi Dong, the Supreme Pontiff, was not present, they made their way straight to the Hall of Offerings. Inside the vast chamber, Qian Daoliu and Golden Crocodile sat opposite each other playing chess. Qing Luan, the third guest elder, sat nearby with a book, quietly turning the pages. Hearing the sound at the entrance, they all looked up at once. When they saw Qian Renshui and Ye Shi return, Qian Daoliu's face broke into a warm smile. Shuer, Shier, why are you back? He asked softly. After a quick calculation in his head, he already had a good idea why. They had told him before about Ye Shi's Shura second trial, and the timing fit. Ye Shi and Qian Renshui's divinity trials were matters that occupied him more than most. Grandpa, Ye Shi said, coming to his side and beaming. Sister and I have come to ask for your help. My second trial has about half a year left. Qian Daoliu waved a hand calmly. I'll take the angel sword tomorrow and go to Slaughter City with you. A sharp glint passed through his eyes at the mention of Slaughter City. The current Slaughter King was Tang Chen. Qian Daoliu remembered all too well that he had narrowly lost to Tang Chen by half a move in their previous confrontation. He couldn't afford a repeat. He would not lose again. Thank you, Grandpa, Ye Shi said, hugging his arm with a grateful smile. Qian Daoliu's expression grew thoughtful. You know, Sheer, Slaughter City, if the Slaughter King won't leave Slaughter City, there's little I can do from here. He glanced toward the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Ye Shi and Qian Renshui followed his look. All three of them thought of the same person, Bibi Dong, the Supreme Pontiff. Bibi Dong was also one of Slaughter City's slaughter gods and possessed the slaughter god domain. In Slaughter City, aside from those holding slaughter god or slaughter domains, only guest elders and the enforcement team with special authorization could freely use spirit abilities. Qian Renshui's expression showed hesitation. Grandpa, you mean we should ask Bibi Dong? Although Qian Renshui understood the implication, she still felt reluctant. The rift between her family and Bibi Dong had been more than 20 years in the making. It couldn't be mended overnight. Qian Daoliu continued quietly, laying out the concern. The current Slaughter King is Tang Chen. Even if his strength has declined because he was parasitized by the nine-headed Bloody Crimson Bat King, we can't be sure how much he has weakened. If he still has the power of a limit Douluo, even with Sheer's slaughter god domain, she can't challenge a limit Douluo in Slaughter City. Getting close could be dangerous. Without the slaughter god domain, we'd be constrained by the rules there. Luring the Slaughter King out would be ideal, but Sheer can't do that alone. Ye Shi listened and then rose. I'll go to the Supreme Pontiff Palace. I'll go with you, Qian Renshui said, and they set off together. Watching them go, Qian Daoliu smiled and placed a chess piece on the board. Big brother, should we go help too? Qing Luan asked softly, closing his book. Golden Crocodile, Guangling, just stay in the Supreme Pontiff Palace and oversee things, Qian Daoliu decided. If possible, he still wanted a fair fight with Tang Chen. But when dealing with enemies, his priority was to eliminate the threat without room for error. In the back hall of the Supreme Pontiff Palace, Bibi Dong sat in her study, pen in hand as she dealt with official matters. She was in a good mood, her lips curved slightly. Yoguan and Guimei stood on either side. The study door was pushed open without warning. Guimei started to scold whoever intruded, but stopped when he saw who it was. Sheer, what brings you here? Bibi Dong asked, setting her pen down and looking at them with gentle amusement. Qian Renshui hesitated, then looked away haughtily, she unsure how to address the Supreme Pontiff. Bibi Dong only smiled at the display and turned her questioning gaze to Ye Shi. Supreme Pontiff, Ye Shi said, stepping forward. There's something I need to ask your help with. She explained the situation in detail, about the Shura trial, Tang Chen as the current Slaughter King, the danger his remaining strength posed, and the need to go to Slaughter City. Bibi Dong listened intently, occasionally glancing at the proud Qian Renshui beside Ye Shi. When their eyes met, Qian Renshui quickly looked away. When Ye Shi finished, Bibi Dong nodded without hesitation. Chapter 286, His Holiness the Pope cooks for you. I'll take care of the official business today. Tomorrow we'll go to Slaughter City with you, Bibi Dong said, picking her pen back up and returning to the stack of documents on her desk. Thank you, Supreme Pontiff, Ye Shi began, but was cut off by Bibi Dong's voice echoing through the study. Always calling me Supreme Pontiff is a bit too formal, Bibi Dong said, glancing up at the proud Qian Renshui. After a moment she added, if you don't mind, call me Aunt Dong. If you do, carry on with Supreme Pontiff. She hesitated, then smiled and softened. Shuer, you can call me whatever you like. Go with how you feel. Qian Renshui shot a quick look at Bibi Dong, but stayed silent. Ye Shi thought for a beat and then said, Aunt Dong. Aunt Dong, then we'll head back now. Ye Shi took Qian Renshui's hand and was about to leave the study. Sheer, stay for dinner tonight at the Supreme Pontiff's palace, Bibi Dong called after them. I'll cook personally. Qian Renshui turned slowly, skepticism clear in her expression. More than 20 years had passed, and only now did she learn Bibi Dong could cook. Bibi Dong met her gaze calmly. After a long moment, Qian Renshui gave the slightest nod. All right. As the two left the study, Bibi Dong smiled and called, Yuguan. Supreme Pontiff, Yuguan answered immediately, kneeling on one knee with marked respect. Go fetch me a cookbook. I must take a proper look. Bibi Dong's face went serious. Yes, Supreme Pontiff? Yuguan bowed and slipped out of the study. At the Supreme Pontiff Palace, on the Bluestone Path, Yeshi glanced at Qian Renshui. Sister, I have a question. Supreme Pontiff? Aunt Dong, does she really know how to cook? Qian Renshui's brow furrowed in puzzlement. She didn't answer, but Yeshi felt she already knew the truth. Evening fell, and soon it was dinner time. In the rear hall's dining room, Yeshi and Qian Renshui sat waiting, silence broken only by the occasional clink of porcelain from the kitchen. Yeshi's gaze kept wandering toward the doorway. A small unease prickled at her. 3 hours later, Bibi Dong finally emerged carrying 3 bowls of porridge. Ahem, there was a little accident, so it might not be as extravagant as usual, she said, placing the bowls before them and avoiding Qian Renshui's eyes. It's fine, Qian Renshui replied lightly. 2 or 3 dishes would have been enough, just something to fill our stomachs. Bibi Dong cleared her throat. There aren't 2 or 3 dishes? Qian Renshui blinked. Not even 2 or 3? Bibi Dong nodded faintly. The room fell quiet. Yeshi peered at the porridge in her bowl, simple white porridge with a few red beans mixed in, and after a moment, scooped up a spoonful. Qian Renshui and Bibi Dong watched her closely. How does it taste? Bibi Dong asked. Yeshi looked first at Bibi Dong, then at Qian Renshui. Her blue eyes blinked. She kept the porridge in her mouth. Finally, under their expectant stares, Yeshi discreetly spat out a red bean. It hit the table with a small sound. The bean was clearly uncooked. The rice isn't cooked either, she said. Aunt Dong, why don't we have the maids cook? Maybe today's ingredients were bad, Yeshi offered, forcing an awkward, polite smile. Bibi Dong forced a laugh. Yes, the ingredients were the problem. Another day. I'll cook properly next time. Qian Renshui said nothing, only resting her hand on Yeshi's leg and looking down at the table. The maids brought a few new dishes, and the 3 of them picked at them politely before retiring to their rooms for the night. The next morning, Qian Daoliu took the angel sword from the Hall of Offerings. Accompanied by the 2 attendants, Golden Crocodile and Guangling, he left the hall and headed for the Supreme Pontiff Palace. At the palace entrance, they found Bibi Dong, Gui Mei, Yuguan, Lingyan, Yeshi, Qian Renshui, and others already waiting. Where are the carriages? Qian Daoliu asked Bibi Dong. I planned for them, Bibi Dong replied, looking at Yeshi. But Shi'er said they weren't necessary. She said we could go directly using spatial abilities. Everyone turned to Yeshi. Under their scrutiny, Yeshi released her slaughter angel spirit. 6 spirit rings flickered, 3 purple, 2 black, and 1 blood red. At the sight of the red ring, surprise showed on Qian Daoliu and Bibi Dong's faces. In fact, everyone except Qian Renshui seemed taken aback. Still, no one spoke. Yeshi opened a spatial rift, stepping in first with Qian Renshui. The others followed, and the rift closed behind them. They emerged in a dense forest. Bibi Dong frowned and looked at Yeshi. Shi'er, it seems we aren't right next to Hell Road in Slaughter City yet. My spirit power was a bit drained, so I could only open us this far, Yeshi said. It's only an hour or two's walk to Hell Road, Bibi Dong added. We can go on foot. Yeshi spread her hands in a helpless gesture. No one argued. They set off for Hell Road. Moving at a swift pace, in mere blinks, they had already vanished from where they'd appeared. Chapter 287, Return to Hell Road. At the exit of Hell Road, Yeshi, Qian Renshui, Qian Daoliu, Bibi Dong, and the others stood with their gazes fixed on the dark maw of the road. Supreme Pontiff, I'll take this, Bibi Dong said. Qian Daoliu looked at her calmly. No trouble at all. Bibi Dong waved dismissively and stepped into Hell Road. As the god of slaughter in Slaughter City, she could come and go through Hell Road whenever she wished. Be careful, Qian Renshui said softly as Bibi Dong moved away. Bibi Dong glanced back at Qian Renshui, caught the faint haughty tilt of her head, smiled, and said nothing. She hadn't been truly worried for herself. Although her current strength didn't match old Qian's, she had long since reached the peak of the 99th spirit rank as the Rakshasa god's legacy bearer. The Rakshasa god's appraisal suppressed her power somewhat, so she could not unleash her full force. Right now, she was somewhere above the 98th rank, but still short of the full 99th. As Bibi Dong entered Hell Road, Qian Daoliu's eyes swept over the assembled group. Excluding Yeshi and Qian Renshui, the weakest among them were the 90th rank, titled Douluo Guimei and Yuoguan, followed by the 96th rank Ling Yuan and Guangling. There was the 98th Golden Crocodile, and Qian Daoliu himself, a peak 99th rank Douluo. Ling Yuan, Guangling, take Xuer and Xier and keep a safe distance, Qian Daoliu instructed. Guimei, Yu Guan, you're primarily responsible for protecting Xuer and Xier. Use spirit fusion if necessary. Golden Crocodile, block the exit of Hell Road with me. Once he comes out, he cannot go back in. He spoke evenly, but his eyes were like a drawn blade. In Slaughter City, Bibi Dong walked through the inner streets, scanning both sides as if looking for something. Chaos brewed ahead. A woman with a short sword had just finished cutting down a fallen one, Hu Lina, Bibi Dong's disciple. Bibi Dong allowed herself a relieved smile but did not stop to greet her. She kept going toward the Slaughter King's quarter. Hu Lina wiped blood from her blade, glanced around, and paused when she saw a familiar back. "Is that Master?" she whispered, then shook her head. "No, Master should be in Spirit City. I've won 74 straight. I'll reach 100 soon and go see Master," Hu Lina muttered and began toward her residence. But she never reached the gate. A roar split the air. Houses trembled and collapsed. Above the city, two figures twisted and collided in midair, energy rippling from their clashes. "Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" The Slaughter King's sharp voice echoed through Slaughter City. Blood-red light blossomed in the sky. Every eye turned upward. The two combatants moved toward Hell Road and fell within its range. Inside the road, their duel quickened. The Slaughter King's killing intent had nearly crystallized. He'd held a slight edge earlier, but not enough to finish Bibi Dong quickly. A hint of solemnity flickered in Bibi Dong's eyes. The Slaughter King's power exceeded her expectations. If it had been only her, she wasn't sure she could win. They fought their way toward the Hell Road exit. Upon reaching it, the spirit rings under Bibi Dong's feet flashed. While parrying the Slaughter King's assault, she stepped back and exited Hell Road. Her body skidded across the ground before she regained her footing. "Why aren't you running?" the Slaughter King snarled. "Attacking this king's city. Do you think you can bully me?" Bibi Dong chuckled and retreated. "Slaughter King, look behind you." He glanced over his shoulder and froze. Suspended in the air, Qian Daoliu hovered with 9 spirit rings flashing beneath him, 8 black, 1 red. Golden Crocodile blocked the Hell Road exit, 9 spirit rings at his feet, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 4 black, and 1 red. Guangling stood on an ancient tree, bow drawn and aimed. Ling Yuan, Guimei, and Yuoguan guarded Yeshi and Qian Renshui farther back. 1 peak Douluo, 1 half-step peak Douluo, 3 peak Douluo, 2 titled Douluo, and 2 who weren't even titled Douluo. The Slaughter King, who'd rarely left Slaughter City or provoked others, was taken aback. For a moment, bewilderment clouded him. He let his eyes dart and then tried to laugh it off. "Misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding," he said with forced geniality. "This king has excellent tea. We can talk things over." "There's nothing to discuss," Qian Daoliu said quietly. "I haven't fought seriously in a long time. One-on-one, or all of you together. Decide." The Slaughter King's smile never reached his eyes. His aura began to flare. Qian Daoliu's 7th spirit ring glowed. He unleashed his spirit avatar. Golden light filled the sky, and a sacred, inviolable presence poured forth from his 6-winged angel martial soul, Hun. The air itself seemed to bow to it. Chapter 288, Qian Daoliu versus the King of Killing. The Slaughter Domain unfurled from the Slaughter King's body, and the Asura demon sword materialized in his hand. He swept his gaze over the people around him, calculating quickly. True, he, the Slaughter King, didn't have the numbers advantage and couldn't fully release Tang Chen's power, but the Asura demon sword was a super divine artifact, a grade above ordinary divine artifacts. More importantly, among the opponents before him, only Qian Daoliu and Bibi Dong were immediate threats. Even though the Golden Crocodile was a level 98 peak Douluo, there was a world of difference between level 98 and level 99. Fixing his sights on Qian Daoliu, the Slaughter King shot up into the air and charged. Angelic Domain flowed outward from Qian Daoliu to counter the Slaughter Domain. An angel sword appeared in Qian Daoliu's hand as he met the Slaughter King head-on. The two longswords crashed together. The impact sent ripples of power skittering outward. "You've grown weaker," Qian Daoliu said. "In other words, you're not Tang Chen," the Slaughter King added, a trace of disappointment threading his voice. Qian Daoliu's eyes flashed with disappointment too, as the angel sword in his hand pulsed with razor-sharp light and slashed at the Slaughter King. The Asura demon sword answered, neither side yielding. For a time, the clash of steel never stopped. Yet Qian Daoliu looked at ease. The sky was his domain. Here he was in his element. Even if Tang Chen himself had been in the Slaughter King's body, he still would have been at a disadvantage against Qian Daoliu in the air. On the ground, Yeshi watched with breathless intensity, fists clenched. Qian Renshui did the same. They trusted their grandfather's strength, but neither wanted him harmed. "Shuer, Xier," Guangling said softly, noticing their tension. "You don't need to worry. Nothing will go wrong." Her voice was calm enough to steady them both, if only a little. Across the field, Bibi Dong stood beside the golden crocodile near the Hell Road exit, both of them silent but alert, ready to move the instant the fight shifted. After a single heavy blow, the two combatants broke apart and retreated. The Slaughter King's body stiffened, an alarmed look crossed his face. "Damn it, Tang Chen is trying to seize control of my body again." Since the nine-headed Bloody Crimson Bat King had incorporated Tang Chen as a parasite, it had suppressed Tang Chen's consciousness most of the time. Tang Chen, however, still fought for control on occasion, and until now the nine-headed bat had always pushed him back. An idea surfaced in the Slaughter King's mind. If Tang Chen was currently contesting control, he could temporarily cede the body to him, let Tang Chen fight now, then take back control once the crisis passed. Tang Chen could unleash power. The Slaughter King couldn't risk using himself. He used the recoil from their collision to fall back and quietly submerged his own consciousness. Tang Chen seized the opening and poured himself into the body. Tang Chen felt a gust of wind whip toward him as soon as he took control. Without thinking, he raised the Asura demon sword to block, then immediately sized up the situation, and his face fell. He had only barely managed to wrest control, fully expecting he might fail, but he had not expected to succeed so completely. And he recognized the leader of the group before him, Qian Daoliu, very well. Not just recognized, he was intimately familiar with him. Taking a breath, Tang Chen set the Asura demon sword aside. His seventh spirit ring at his feet flared, and the clear sky hammer spirit manifested in his hand as his spirit avatar was released. The first spirit ring under his feet detonated into a surge of pure energy that poured into the clear sky hammer. The hammer, as large as a small mountain, smashed toward Qian Daoliu. "Ring explosion?" someone murmured. "Tang Chen?" another voice asked. Qian Daoliu raised a brow as his own seventh spirit ring flickered and his spirit avatar unfolded. Second spirit ability, Angelic Light Blade. 12 blades of light obeyed his motion and lanced at the clear sky hammer. When they struck, a concentric wave of energy burst outward. Trees and boulders below were pulverized by the shock. Ling Yuan, Gi Mei, and Yue Guan, who stood guarding Ye Shi and Qian Renshui, unleashed their spirits to brace against the ripples. Bibi Dong and the Golden Crocodile, watching from the Hell Road exit, both frowned as they tracked the aerial duel. "Ring explosion," the Golden Crocodile said quietly. "And his fighting style is completely different from before. Watch carefully." "This feels wrong," Bibi Dong said, eyes fixed overhead. Qian Daoliu's face lit with a fierce excitement, as if youth's fire had returned to him. His eighth spirit ring suddenly flared. Eighth spirit ability, Angelic Glory. Energy gathered before him. The six-winged angel martial soul behind him spread its wings and thrust its hands forward. A pillar of golden light shot out to strike Tang Chen. Tang Chen responded by detonating his second, third, and fourth rings into raw energy that surged into the clear sky hammer. The hammer barreled forward with crushing force. The golden pillar and the mountain-sized hammer met and locked in the sky, neither gaining the upper hand. Energy flared and writhed until both combatants were forced back, sliding dozens of meters before regaining their footing. Qian Daoliu leveled his angel sword at Tang Chen. "Tang Chen, you've grown old. Your strength has declined," he said, and then surged forward, the sword glinting with a cold light as it arced toward Tang Chen. Tang Chen's expression darkened. He swung the clear sky hammer up to meet the strike. Chapter 289, Tu Yin Stillness Field. The angel sword and the clear sky hammer met again with a thunderous clash, sending ripples outward from the point of impact. Qian Daoliu and Tang Chen pushed with all their might, each trying to overpower the other. Locked in midair, neither could gain ground. Qian Daoliu, it's been decades, Tang Chen said, and you don't seem to have improved much, Qian Daoliu replied coolly. Tang Chen's arm muscles bulged. His fifth spirit ring suddenly detonated, its energy siphoning into the clear sky hammer and sharpening its force. Ring explosion is powerful, Tang Chen muttered as the hammer surged. Qian Daoliu's voice remained calm, but the blood-red rings along his body flared in answer. The six-winged angel martial soul condensed into a colossal sword that radiated a sacred aura. The giant blade cleaved the golden sky as it descended toward Tang Chen. The two weapons shrieked as they met again. Under everyone's eyes, the angel sword slowly gained the advantage, forcing the clear sky hammer down. Tang Chen answered by igniting more spirit rings. The clear sky hammer steadied and fought to recover. The two weapons locked in a dead heat above the ground. Bibi Dong watched with narrowed eyes. She tapped the ground with her toes and sprang upward toward the center of the fray. Golden Crocodile followed close behind. Guangling notched his Guangling divine bow. The eighth spirit ring at his feet flared. Guimei and Yueguan exchanged a quick look and began fusing their spirit rings together. Just as Tang Chen prepared to act, the air around them snapped still as if frozen. Tu Yin Static Domain, someone breathed. Sixth spirit ability, Eternal Creation. Sixth spirit ability, Fierce Golden Crocodile. Eighth spirit ability, Limitless. Eighth spirit ability, Blood Boiling. One by one, spirit rings all around flared and rattled. Tang Chen detonated his seventh and eighth rings. The resulting energy poured into the clear sky hammer and drove it through the Tu Yin Static Domain with brutal force. The hammer pressed down, but Qian Daoliu's angel sword held firm. Bibi Dong's two emerald scythes pierced Tang Chen from behind. Blood burst and bloomed like flowers, scattering in midair. A phantom-shaped giant crocodile slammed into him, sending him spiraling toward the ground. Countless arrows rose from the earth and struck, while heat-laden feathers rained down. There was a heavy, bone-jarring impact. A giant sword smashed into the ground, leaving a long, scorched gouge and an intolerable glare that made everyone instinctively close their eyes. When the light faded, Tang Chen was kneeling, a ragged wound running from shoulder to abdomen. Blood poured from the cut and stained the ground. The clear sky hammer in his hands was nearly shattered. He coughed, spitting blood, and his gaze swept over the assembled faces. He tried to rise, but the clear sky hammer in his grasp dissolved into fragments of light and vanished. His body slumped backward. Tang Chen, Qian Daoliu said as he walked toward him, angel sword in hand. Decades ago, I lost by half a move. My victory today isn't glorious either. I would have preferred a fair fight to decide it, but you obstructed my granddaughter's path to godhood. Tang Chen let out a low, bitter laugh. Qian Daoliu's sword pierced his heart, and crimson petals of blood blossomed as the blade was withdrawn. As a final act of caution, Qian Daoliu struck once more, ending him. Spirit bones scattered from Tang Chen's corpse, and the Asura demon sword remained embedded in the earth. Qian Daoliu wiped the blood from his blade and looked at Tang Chen's body with a complicated expression. "Give his body a proper burial," he ordered softly, then withdrew his spirit. Golden Crocodile stood silently beside him. Guangling gathered the scattered spirit bones and the spirit tools from Tang Chen's body. Guimei and Yueguan fell back to stand behind Bibi Dong. Ye pulled the Asura demon sword free and dashed to Qian Daoliu. "Grandpa, are you hurt?" she asked, throwing herself into his arms and scanning him anxiously. "How could I be hurt?" Qian Daoliu replied, stroking her hair with a smile. "Even without help, I could have defeated him. Only the time it would have taken differed." Qian Renshui looked toward Bibi Dong with concern. "Are you all right?" Bibi Dong shook her head lightly. "What could happen to me? You don't need to worry." Still, the corners of her mouth curved into a faint smile. "Who's worried about you?" Qian Renshui said, half scolding, half amused. Bibi Dong just returned the smile and kept silent. "Sheer, your assessment isn't finished yet, is it?" Qian Daoliu asked, still gently stroking Ye Shi's hair. I obtained the Asura demon sword, Ye Shi replied. Once I become the Slaughter King, the assessment will be complete. Then I'll need to go to Slaughter City. Go, we'll wait here, Qian Daoliu said, eyes bright. Ye Shi nodded and stepped toward Hell Road's entrance. Bibi Dong suddenly moved to join her. I'll go with you, to give you some deterrence. She patted Ye Shi on the shoulder and followed her into Hell Road. After they left, Qian Daoliu sat down where he had been. Qian Renshui sat beside him, watching Hell Road without blinking. Guangling approached and offered the collected spirit bones and spirit tools to Qian Renshui. These are Tang Chen's, he said. They should be useful to you and Shir. Thank you, Grandpa Guangling, she said, accepting them. As she opened the spirit tools and quickly examined their contents, her eyes widened. There were indeed many valuable items inside, more than she had expected. Chapter 290. Everyone, are you willing to bow down to this king? Slaughter City. The palace where the Slaughter King had once ruled was filled with people. They were the guest elders and law enforcement officers of Slaughter City, figures of the highest rank in the city. Not long ago, they had discovered that the authority the Slaughter King had granted them had vanished. Without it, they were little different from ordinary fallen ones. They had remained in the palace to wait for the Slaughter King's return. Time passed. How long, none of them could say. Footsteps echoed through the halls, and every pair of eyes turned toward the sound. First to appear was a young woman in a black gown, her silver hair swept back neatly, the Asura demon's sword in her hand. Many recognized her. Her reputation in Slaughter City had once been fearsome. She had driven so many fallen ones away that they dared not enter the inner city. At her side walked a tall woman with an almost perfect face. They entered together in silence. The crowd watched without speaking. Ye Shi took the former Slaughter King's seat and surveyed those gathered below. You must have noticed your authority in Slaughter City has disappeared, she said. I have some bad news. The previous Slaughter King fell not long ago, and I am the new king of Slaughter City. I'm democratic. If you have an objection, speak now, though I might not listen. Surrender now, and I will re-grant you authority in Slaughter City. Everyone, are you willing to bow to this king? Ye Shi rose, the Asura demon sword held calmly. Bibi Dong beside her released her spirit. A powerful chi swept out and pressed down on everyone in the hall. Shui Chen, are you convinced? Someone asked softly from the front. I am convinced, Shui Chen answered plainly. I submit to the Slaughter King. The current king is the king of Slaughter City. Why would I not be convinced? Under the circumstances, anyone who dared lead an open refusal would be inviting death. Shui Chen stepped forward and dropped to one knee with such force the palace floor cracked. Shui Chen, greetings to the Slaughter King. With Shui Chen's example, others followed and knelt. Ye Shi scanned the room. Seeing no objection, she sat back on the throne. A voice spoke in her mind. Assessor, Ye Shi, completed Shura second trial. Reward, control of Slaughter City. Spirit power increased 1 level. All spirit rings increased by 2,000 years. Slaughter domain undergoes transformation. Slaughter domain can suppress all domains of lower spirit quality than itself. Shura third trial. Within 2 years, increase spirit power to level 70 and attach a spirit ring of 100,000 years or more. Ye Shi felt the changes within her and breathed softly. The Shura third trial wasn't harsh. Her spirit power was at level 67. Reaching 70 in 2 years was doable. Attaching a spirit ring of 100,000 years or more was also manageable with the backing she had. Hunting such a spirit beast would not be difficult. She re-granted authority to those before her and fixed Shui Chen with her gaze. Your name is Shui Chen. While I am away from Slaughter City, you will manage its affairs. Operations should continue as before. But remember, we can grant authority, and we can take it away. If anyone pretends to comply but secretly opposes us, death may be a mercy. Ye Shi smiled, serene but unmistakably dangerous. Slaughter King, please rest assured, Shui Chen said, patting his chest. I used to be the third in command of Slaughter City. Since He Yu left, I've handled some of the city's matters. The first to step forward expected preferential treatment. With the Slaughter King absent, he would be in charge now, a true leadership role. Even though he had managed things before, The authority Ye Shi bestowed was greater than any the previous Slaughter King had offered. "Work hard," Ye Shi said. "If you do well, perhaps I will let you leave Slaughter City someday and join the higher ranks of the force I establish." She slipped the Asura demon sword away and walked toward the exit. "King, please rest assured, I will manage Slaughter City in order and won't disappoint you. King, watch your steps. Please be careful." Shui Chen led the way out before her, his smile never faltering. Bibi Dong walked beside Ye Shi without a word. The others watched Shui Chen with increasingly strange looks. He reminded them of an imperial eunuch dutifully serving an emperor. After Ye Shi and Bibi Dong left, Shui Chen returned to the palace interior and announced, "The king has left. I'm in charge now. Scott, take the law enforcement officers and find some fallen ones to renovate the palace. It's lifeless. Make it to a young woman's taste. And this throne, change it so one can recline. Add a gauze curtain in front." He paced with his hands behind his back, issuing orders. The others exchanged glances, bewildered by his eagerness. Hell Road. Ye Shi and Bibi Dong headed straight for the exit. "Sheer, are you really going to let the people of Slaughter City leave?" Bibi Dong asked softly. "If everyone leaves, it will cause a stir. If he does well, I might let him out," Ye Shi replied coolly. "But what counts as doing well is up to me." Bibi Dong smiled and asked no more. As they walked Hell Road, a great serpent appeared before them, coiled in sleep, the 10-headed fierce Yang serpent. Ye Shi paused, a thoughtful look crossing her blue eyes as she regarded the beast. Her gaze found Bibi Dong, who immediately understood. Ye Shi released her spirit, gripping the slaughter sword in her right hand and the Asura demon sword in her left. Bibi Dong did the same. Chapter 291, 10 Fiery Sun Snake Inner Pills. Chapter 289, the 10-headed fierce Yang serpent's inner core. With Ye Shi and Bibi Dong cooperating, the 10-headed fierce Yang serpent was finally defeated. Ye Shi happily took out the serpent's inner core and sealed it into her spirit tool. By the time they left Hell Road, the sky had already darkened. Qian Daoliu, Qian Renshui, and the others had lit a bonfire, and Guangling had caught a few wild rabbits, apparently planning roasted rabbit. Ye Shi's eyes lit up and she hurried over. "Grandpa." Standing beside Qian Daoliu, Ye Shi couldn't help staring at the rabbits in Guangling's hands. Rabbits were undeniably cute, yet they would be even better roasted with chili. Qian Daoliu noticed her gaze and chuckled. "Sheer, have you finished your assessment?" "It's done. Is Grandpa Guangling going to roast them?" "Let me do it. I'm a good cook." Ye Shi's eyes sparkled. "Really? You should forget it," Qian Daoliu said, placing a hand on Ye Shi's shoulder and motioning for her to sit. "Let Grandpa Guangling and Ling Yuan handle it." He ignored her claim of culinary skill. His two granddaughters had never been near a kitchen since they were little. Someone who had never cooked, claiming to be a great cook. Qian Daoliu didn't believe it for a second. Ye Shi considered for a moment and didn't press it. Waiting for food had its own merit. Before long, the roasted rabbits were ready. After everyone ate their fill, they rose and set off along the little path toward the nearby city. Qian Daoliu walked with his hands behind his back, watching Ye Shi and Qian Renshui walk hand in hand. He asked softly, Sheer, since this is settled, are you going back to Spirit City or returning directly to Heaven Do City?" Ye Shi and Qian Renshui exchanged a look and understood each other instantly. "Grandpa, Sheer and I will go straight back to Heaven Do City. We've been away too long. We should go home." Qian Renshui's gaze involuntarily drifted toward Heaven Do City. "That sounds good. If anything comes up you can't handle, remember to send word," Qian Daoliu reminded them earnestly. "Grandpa, we know," they replied together. Bibi Dong watched the exchange and seemed ready to offer Qian Renshui some advice, but after a moment's thought, she kept silent. There was a long road ahead, no need to rush. Frost Snow Pavilion. In the main hall, stately and solemn, the high-ranking members sat on either side. Ye Qingshui frowned slightly as she read a message in her hand. "Everyone, I've just received word that the Clear Sky sect has announced its reappearance and has invited the 7 Treasure Glazed Tiles School, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, and our Frost Snow Pavilion to be guests at the Tang sect. Since the pavilion master is absent, what do you all think? Should we accept the invitation? The Clear Sky sect has just re-emerged and immediately invited those 3. What do they want?" Ye Qingshui clasped her hands and swept her gaze across the hall. Nearly every senior member was present, except Nu Gao, who had gone to the far north, and Ling Yuan, who had left with Ye Shi. Ghost Leopard, Demon Bear, and Dugu Bo, the three titled Douluo, sat with eyes half closed, not immediately voicing opinions. Yang Wudi and Shui Wuchang were deep in thought. I believe whatever the Clear Sky sect intends, it has nothing to do with our pavilion. As long as they don't provoke us, we should ignore them. For their invitation, find any excuse to decline, Yang Wudi said first, his tone full of disdain for the Clear Sky sect. I disagree. Shui Wuchang lifted her head. Since the pavilion master isn't here, we could send a representative to learn their intentions. If necessary, we can always use the excuse that the pavilion master is away to avoid deeper involvement. Ye Qingshui nodded but did not decide immediately. She looked to Ghost Leopard, Demon Bear, and Dugu Bo. She never made major decisions unilaterally, preferring to discuss matters with the senior members. If consensus couldn't be reached, they would vote. Dugu Bo remained composed with his eyes closed. Ghost Leopard and Demon Bear opened theirs slowly. Yang Wudi has a point. If the Clear Sky sect doesn't bother us, we can keep our distance. But we can't do nothing, Ghost Leopard said calmly, a faint glint appearing in his eyes. If the pavilion master returns and finds we knew nothing, she might be displeased. It would be better to accept the invitation and see what they mean so we have a report. I agree with Ghost Leopard, Demon Bear added. Ye Qingshui asked, if we send someone to observe, who would be appropriate? Yang Wudi leaned back and shook his head firmly. I won't go. I don't want anything to do with the Clear Sky sect, and I certainly won't visit the Tang sect. I've only been here a short while. If I represented the pavilion, it might be improper. Shui Wuchang suggested, Hallmaster Ye, you are handling the pavilion's affairs for now. You would be the most suitable representative. Dugu Bo opened his eyes and spoke. Ghost Leopard and Demon Bear nodded in agreement. Although I am temporarily handling things, I am only a spirit saint. If I go alone, it might appear disrespectful. Ye Qingshui looked to Ghost Leopard and Demon Bear, implying she wanted accompaniment. They tacitly closed their eyes again and remained silent, so the task of accompanying Ye Qingshui naturally fell to Dugu Bo. After the matter was settled, everyone left the hall in turn, leaving Ye Qingshui alone to handle the pavilion's affairs. She picked up a pen, her expression serious and focused as she worked through the paperwork. Only after she had finished did she rise and leave the hall. Chapter 292, Opening Champagne at Halftime is Not Advisable. Half a month later, Heavendew City, a street stall. Ye Shi, Qian Renshui, and Ling Yuan sat at a table, leisurely enjoying their meal. Ye Shi, full and content, wiped the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief, then took the 10-headed fierce Yang serpent's inner core from her spirit tool and set it in front of Ling Yuan. Ling Yuan, this inner core can strengthen one's fire attribute and has other useful properties, Ye Shi said. It was originally meant for Aunt Ye, but she declined, so I'm giving it to you. Thank you, young miss, Ling Yuan replied, unable to hide her joy. Anything that could boost her fire attribute would be a tremendous help. Let's head back to Frost Snow Pavilion first. Once we're back, you can absorb it. They rose from the table. Ling Yuan followed a half-step behind them as they left for Frost Snow Pavilion. Back at Frost Snow Pavilion's main hall, the first thing they saw was Ye Qingshui sitting at her desk, deep in thought. So deep she didn't notice their arrival. Aunt Ye, what are you thinking about? You look completely absorbed, Ye Shi said as she approached. Ye Qingshui snapped back to attention at Ye Shi's voice, stood up, and bowed. Sect Master, you're back. Quite a few things have happened recently. I was just going over them in my head, Ye Qingshui answered, smiling when she saw Ye Shi and Qian Renshui take their seats. What things? Ye Shi and Qian Renshui asked in unison. Ye Shi explained. Since Emperor Shuiye began cracking down on the nobility, the nobles of the Heaven Do Empire have quietly shifted their attitude toward Frost Snow Pavilion. They haven't shown it openly, but there's clear discontent. And Clear Sky Sect has announced its reemergence. Not long ago, they even called a meeting at Tang Sect, inviting the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan, and our Frost Snow Pavilion. I went with Dugu Bo. You could sense the upper 3 sects edging toward unity. The sect master of Tang sect and people from Clear Sky sect seem to be planning an expedition to the Stardew Great Forest to hunt a 100,000-year spirit beast in revenge for Tang Hao. Ye Qingshe recounted the recent developments in detail. Qian Renshui gently stroked Yexi's hair, an uneasy look crossing her face. When Yexi heard that Tang sect and Clear Sky sect were preparing to go to the Stardew Great Forest to hunt a 100,000-year spirit beast, her eyes brightened immediately. On the surface, the 100,000-year spirit beasts in the Stardew Great Forest were the Sky Azure Bull Python, the Emperor, the Titan Giant Ape, the King, and a transformed Xiao Wu. Hidden in the shadows, however, were far more terrifying things: the beast god Ditian, the dark golden dreadclaw bear, Xiang Jun, various vicious beasts, and the great terror lurking in the life lake, the co-lord of the spirit beasts, the Silver Dragon King. Yexi had already verified these on her last visit to the forest. Ditian and the other vicious beasts were indeed there. If Tang sect and Clear Sky sect go together, they might succeed in killing the Sky Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape, Yexi mused. But if they provoke Ditian and the others, I'd expect the Clear Sky sect to be wiped out in the Stardew Great Forest. Can I pop the champagne early and celebrate Clear Sky sect being led into a blazing trap by little Tang San? She thought, a mischievous glint in her eyes. No, opening champagne at halftime is not advisable, she reminded herself, though the idea still pleased her. Should I fan the flames behind the scenes? Her blue eyes sparkled as she considered the possibilities. Qian Renshui, sensing the change in Yexi, let her hand pause in her hair. From what she knew of Yexi, that expression usually meant someone else was about to meet misfortune. Have Tang sect and Clear Sky sect already departed to hunt the 100,000-year spirit beast? Qian Renshui asked seriously. Not yet, Ye Qingshe replied. Clear Sky sect has only just reappeared and still has matters to settle. They're likely to head to the Stardew Great Forest only after those are resolved. I know the situation with the nobles, Ye Qingshe went on. Whatever Emperor Sheye plans, we'll cooperate as needed. If the upper three sects want to unite, let them. I'll deal with each development in turn. Yexi waved a hand, and with Qian Renshui, rose to walk toward the lakeside pavilion. She couldn't hide the smile playing on her lips as she walked along the flagstone path. Xier, what's got you so happy? What Ye Qingshe said doesn't sound like cause for such a smile, Qian Renshui asked. It's because Tang sect and Clear Sky sect are going to hunt a 100,000-year spirit beast in the Stardew Great Forest, Yexi replied, leaving Qian Renshui dangling for a beat. The 100,000-year spirit beasts they'll face are the Sky Azure Bull Python, the so-called Emperor, and the Titan Giant Ape, the King. Given Clear Sky sect's confidence, they must think they can handle them. Qian Renshui frowned. Aunt Ye, the Sky Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape are, at most, gatekeepers in the Stardew Great Forest. There are even more terrifying existences hidden there. More terrifying existences, Yexi teased, shaking a finger. How do you know about them? I've never heard of those others, Qian Renshui asked. Yexi tapped her head. My 300,000-year-plus vicious beast spirit ring. That's how. She had mentioned before that after the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion sacrificed itself, its soul had been preserved in Yexi's spiritual sea. If the Scorpion had told her about those beings, that would explain Yexi's knowledge. Do you mean those hidden terrors in the Stardew Great Forest will emerge when Tang sect and Clear Sky sect go after the Sky Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape? Qian Renshui's face grew serious. I don't know, Yexi said, then shrugged and changed the subject. Whether they'll actually come out, I can't say. But I can stir the pot a little behind the scenes to try to make it happen. If the people of Clear Sky sect truly all fall in the Stardew Great Forest, that would be a very desirable outcome. She offered a deceptively innocent smile as they continued on toward the pavilion. Noticing the faint change in Yexi's expression, Qian Renshui reached out and pinched her cheek. Xier, if the Clear Sky sect really were wiped out in the Stardew Great Forest, that would be not a bad thing. Yexi frowned. What do you plan to do? Tomorrow, I'll go to see Tang Hao first and check on the situation with the Clear Sky sect and the Tang sect. Then I'll decide. For now, let's go back and rest. It's been a tiring journey. Yeshi slipped her arm through Qian Renshui's, and they walked toward the lakeside pavilion. Qian Renshui smiled and said nothing more. Ling Yuan, who had been following quietly behind them, felt briefly ignored, but after a moment she fell in step again. Only once they reached the pavilion did Ling Yuan excuse herself and head to her room to absorb the 10-headed fierce yang serpent's inner core. Early the next morning, in the antique-style room, Yeshi yawned and sat up from the bed. Qian Renshui was already changing, her azure eyes blinking sleepily. "Sister, are you going back to the Tiando Royal Palace?" Qian Renshui looked over and nodded. "Yes, I haven't kept up with what's happening there for a long time. I'll go and check first." She came to Yeshi's bedside, bent close, and kissed Yeshi gently on the lips. When they parted, she patted Yeshi's head. "I'm leaving now, about the Clear Sky sect. If it really seems impossible, don't force yourself." Qian Renshui thought of using a ferocious beast in the Star Great Forest to eliminate the Clear Sky sect and judged it unlikely to work. Yeshi smiled confidently. "Sister, don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Qian Renshui nodded and left. When the door closed, Yeshi lay back on the soft bed and closed her eyes, thinking. She dove her consciousness into her spiritual sea. Empress Bing, lazily tracing circles with her tail, sat up at once when she heard Yeshi's voice. "Three-eyed golden lion?" she echoed, surprised. "Yeshi, what are you trying to do?" Empress Bing spoke quickly. She had never seen the three-eyed golden lion, but Snow Empress had warned about certain things in the Stardew Great Forest. Detian, whose strength was unfathomable and even rivaled Snow Empress, the important and forbidden three-eyed golden lion, and even mention of a previously unseen master. "You absolutely cannot touch the three-eyed golden lion," Empress Bing insisted. "If you provoke it, not even Sister Cher could save you. If you want a spirit ring, let's look for another one. There are other prey in the sea." "I won't touch it," Yeshi answered earnestly. "If I encounter it, I'll take a detour. If necessary, I won't even go into the Stardew Great Forest." Hearing that, Empress Bing relaxed and lay down again. Their bond was such that whatever happened to one happened to the other. As long as Yeshi was safe, Empress Bing would be safe too. Yeshi dressed and headed to the main hall. Ye Qingshe was busy with affairs, and Yeshi walked over to her without hesitation. "Aunt Ye, please prepare some gifts. I'm going to visit the Clear Sky sect." Ye Qingshe looked up, startled. She could not remember ever bringing gifts when visiting the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School or the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan. But Yeshi's expression was serious, so she rose and began assembling presents without another word. Yeshi went to find Ling Yuan to ask her to accompany the trip, but Ling Yuan was still absorbing the serpent's core. In the end, Yeshi took Ghost Leopard with her. When she returned to the hall, Ye Qingshe had already packed the gifts. Yeshi snapped her fingers, signaling Ghost Leopard to take them, and then left the Frost Snow Pavilion. They walked through Heavendoe City and soon were on the road. Several hours later, they passed a small village and arrived beneath a mountain opposite the Clear Sky sect. After announcing their arrival, Yeshi and Ghost Leopard waited quietly. Tang Hao soon appeared. "Pavilion Master Ye," he greeted, bowing slightly. "What brings you to the Clear Sky sect?" "I just returned to Heavendoe City yesterday and heard Aunt Ye mention your reappearance," Yeshi replied calmly. "I brought a few humble gifts and came to pay my respects." They walked to the sect's main hall and sat. Yeshi signaled Ghost Leopard to set the gifts down with a light snap of her fingers, then regarded Tang Hao without speaking for a moment. "Tang Sect Master, is there something you wish to discuss?" Tang Hao asked, glancing at the offerings. "Yes." Yeshi leaned forward. "I heard you're going to the Stardew Great Forest soon." "That's correct," Tang Hao said. "When you go, could you help me search for a particular spirit beast? If you can bring it back, I'll give you this in exchange." Yeshi produced a spirit tool, the yearning heartbroken red, and smiled. Tang Hao frowned and looked more closely at the item. "What spirit beast?" "The three-eyed golden lion." Yeshi described it precisely. Its fur is golden, but looks almost like translucent crystal, full of a strange texture. Its body resembles a lion, but its 4 claws are like a dragon's, and its muzzle is slightly longer than a lion's. Under the fur, there are delicate scales, and besides the usual 2 eyes, it has a vertical, 3rd pupil. Chapter 294, I will never let you suffer." Three-eyed golden lion, Tang Xiao's brow went up as he listened to Ye Shi. "I've never heard of such a spirit beast." "Pavilion Master Ye," he added, "if your Frost Snow Pavilion is really looking for one, you have the manpower. Why involve our Clear Sky sect?" Ye Shi explained calmly. "The three-eyed golden lion is said to dwell in the core area of the Stardow Great Forest. Our Frost Snow Pavilion can search for it, but Snowy Domain City is my fief, and many of our members are currently there. The core area is home to 100,000-year spirit beasts. Any attempt to capture a beast there would risk conflict with them. For these reasons, I've hesitated to send people." "It's precisely because of those concerns that I didn't send anyone," she continued. "But if Sect Master Tang can bring me the three-eyed golden lion, I will give you the yearning heartbroken red in return." Tang Xiao frowned. "Yearning heartbroken red?" Ye Shi's smile was sweet and composed. "It can restore life to the dead and regrow flesh on bare bones. It will ensure you suffer no losses." Tang Xiao's interest flickered, but he didn't accept immediately. Something in his gut made him wary, yet on reflection it all sounded reasonable. Everyone in Heaven Do City knew Frost Snow Pavilion frequently sent large resources to Snowy Domain City. They had limited manpower and reasons to avoid direct confrontations with the 100,000-year beasts in the Stardew Great Forest. Their main motive in going there had been to avenge Tang Hao, targeting the core area's powerful beasts, so them helping search wouldn't be strange. And exchanging a 10,000-year three-eyed golden lion for an item that could resurrect and heal the dead was no small matter. "What cultivation age is the three-eyed golden lion?" he asked. "It seems to be around 10,000 years, Ye Shi said after a moment's thought. 10,000 years, we can help search. If we find it, we'll bring it back. If not, there's nothing we can do." Tang Xiao decided that even if the lion had strong bloodlines, at roughly 10,000 years, it wouldn't overpower a titled Douluo like him. Helping locate it, in exchange for the yearning heartbroken red, was worth the effort. He nodded. "Very well, we'll search for it." "Many thanks, Sect Master Tang." Ye Shi's smile widened. Tang Xiao waved off the thanks. "I have matters to attend to at Clear Sky Sect. I should return." Ye Shi rose. Ghost Leopard, ever silent, trailed behind her. Tang Xiao walked with them to the entrance of Clear Sky Sect and saw them off. Only when they had disappeared did he turn back toward his sect. As they left, Ghost Leopard glanced at Ye Shi and asked, puzzled, "Young miss, if you want the three-eyed golden lion, I can simply go into the Stardew Great Forest. Why bring the Clear Sky Sect into it?" "No, absolutely not," Ye Shi said sharply. Her voice turned serious. "If you encounter the three-eyed golden lion in the Stardew Great Forest, detour. Never act on it or nurture any designs toward it." Ghost Leopard swallowed. He didn't know why she was so adamant, but he would obey. "Understood, young miss." Ye Shi exhaled with relief, then took a sheet of paper and a brush from her spirit tool and wrote carefully. Folding the note into an envelope, she handed it to him. "Take this to the core area and deliver it to Xiao Wu. And remember, do not act in the core area unless absolutely necessary." "Yes, young miss." Ghost Leopard bowed and set off toward the Stardew Great Forest. "I hope everything goes smoothly," Ye Shi murmured to herself, a small smile playing on her lips. "If it does, I'll open champagne to celebrate." She turned and walked back toward Frost Snow Pavilion in a light mood. Tiandu Royal Palace. In the Crown Prince's chamber, Shui Qinghe flipped through a stack of expense lists with surprise. "Is Frost Snow Pavilion's expenditure really that large?" he muttered. He skimmed the forms and realized they were budgets for building Snowy Domain City. No wonder their outlay was enormous. A guard entered and knelt. "Your Highness, Her Highness the Princess has arrived." "Let Shui Qinghe in," Shui Qinghe said with a wave. Shui Qinghe entered soon after and sat beside him. "Brother," she began. "No," Shui Qinghe replied flatly, not looking up. Shui Qinghe pouted. "I haven't even said it yet." "Then say it." "I've graduated from Moon Pavilion. It's dull staying in the palace all day. I want to go to Frost Snow Pavilion and stay with Xiao Shi for a few days." Shui Qinghe glanced at her, expression unreadable. "No." Shui Qinghe's eyes rounded. "Why not?" "Because," he said, lowering his voice, "if you go stay with Sheer, who will be here?" Shui Qinghe poked his arm. "No means no. No need for so many whys." Shui Qinghe softened a little. "You can still go out shopping with Xiao Shi during the day," he suggested. But staying there, I can't allow it. Fine. Shuike jumped up. Brother, you go back to your work. I'm going to find Xiao Shi. At the door, she paused and made a silly face at him, then swept out. Watching her go, Shui Qinghe allowed a faint, indifferent smile. He thought for a moment and decided he would find something for Shuike to do tomorrow. She couldn't be running off to see Sheer every day. Chapter 295, Crystal Blood Dragon Ginseng. Returning to Heaven Do City, Yeshi walked through the bustling streets. She didn't go back to Frost Snow Pavilion right away. Instead, she headed for the Tang sect. Xiaoxi, what are you doing here? I was just about to come find you. A surprised voice came from behind. Yeshi turned and saw Shuike approaching. Shuike, long time no see. It has been a while, Yeshi waved. Are you free now? Want to go shopping? Shuike asked, slipping an arm through Yeshi's with an expectant look. I've got something to do first, Yeshi answered. You can go wait at Frost Snow Pavilion, or you can come with me. I'll come with you. Where are we going? Shuike asked. Tang sect. Yeshi replied simply. Hearing that, Shuike nodded and followed without another question. They walked down a long street and soon stood before the Tang sect gate. Yeshi's eyes narrowed slightly as she took in the compound, then she focused on the disciple at the entrance. After giving their names and identities, she waited while the disciple went inside to report. About 10 minutes later, an elderly man with a slim build and streaks of gray in his long hair stepped out. Pavilion Master Ye, sorry to have kept you waiting, he said, bowing slightly. Though polite, his gaze carried a faint air of pride. Bai He, chief of the Speed Clan? Yeshi sized him up. That's me. Bai He inclined his head and made a polite gesture for them to enter. Inside Tang sect, the disciples bustled about. Bai He led Ye Shi and Shui Ke to the reception hall, and they took their seats. After someone brought tea, Bai He fixed his eyes on Ye Shi. Pavilion Master Ye, I must warn you, Tang sect doesn't have good tea, only something rather coarse. I hope you won't mind. He lifted his cup and took a sip, keeping his attention on Ye Shi. Is your visit about something important? I can fetch the sect master if need be. No, it's not important. Ye Shi scanned the hall with calm interest, then said, I heard some things about Clear Sky Sect and Tang Sect. I stopped by Clear Sky Sect first and thought I'd take a look at Tang Sect too. Shui Ke tried the tea and immediately made a face at the bitterness. Ye Shi noticed and set her cup down. From Shui Ke's expression, she could tell the tea was undrinkable. Chief Bai, I heard you once had a crystal blood dragon ginseng, Ye Shi said, smiling. When I invited the Breaking Clan, I intended to acquire it from you. Would you consider selling it? I can accept reasonable terms. Bai He's expression tightened briefly. I'm afraid I must disappoint you. When I joined Tang sect, I handed the crystal blood dragon ginseng over to the sect master. It's not in my possession. That's a pity, Ye Shi murmured, fingertips brushing together as she looked thoughtful. Just then a disciple entered, whispered something to Bai He, and the older man's expression shifted. He stood. Pavilion Master Ye, I'm sorry, but Tang sect is rather busy at the moment. I must take my leave. He bowed slightly. Please mention this to the sect master when he returns. If he ever considers selling the crystal blood dragon ginseng, tell him to visit Frost Snow Pavilion. I'll be there for the time being. Very well. Ye Shi rose with Shui Ke and they left Tang sect. Outside, Shui Ke looked at Ye Shi curiously. Did you come to Tang sect just for the crystal blood dragon ginseng? Ye Shi shook her head. Not entirely. I mostly wanted to see how Tang sect is doing. The ginseng was a side matter. Her eyes held a quiet thoughtfulness. You're free now, right? Let's stroll around Heaven Do City and relax a little, Shui Ke said, squeezing Ye Shi's arm. All right, Ye Shi smiled. Let's get some drinks first. It's still early. They bought 2 drinks and made their way to the most luxurious street, wandering from stall to stall, slipping into elegantly decorated shops to browse. Night fell before they realized it, and only reluctantly did they begin to head back. At the entrance to the Tiando Royal Palace, Shay waved. I'll come by Frost Snow Pavilion again tomorrow. With that, she entered the palace. Ye Shi went back to Frost Snow Pavilion. In the main hall, she greeted Ye Qingshui, then walked toward the lakeside pavilion. Inside a room, Qian Renshui sat at a desk, fingers tapping the wood and glancing at the time with a displeased look. The door opened, and she turned to see Ye Shi enter. You're back, Qian Renshui said. How was hanging out with Shui Ke? It was fine. Quite fun, Yeshi replied, smiling faintly. What's wrong? Qian Renshui asked, her eyes darkening at the smile. Ye Qing came over and sat down in front of Qian Renshui, plopping herself into Qian Renshui's lap. Nothing, just asking. Qian Renshui reached out, pinched Ye Shi's cheek, and added, Shi'er, keep a bit of distance from Shui Ke from now on. She paused, then asked more seriously, how did things look with Clear Sky Sect and Tang Sect? Is it feasible to obtain that crystal blood dragon ginseng? Chapter 294, The Little Overlord of the Star-Dew Great Forest. Ye Shi stared toward the Star-Dew Great Forest, a contemplative look in her eyes. The situation with the Clear Sky Sect and the Tang Sect matches the intel, she said. Whether it will work out, though, depends on fate. Her gaze darkened slightly. Keeping the Clear Sky Sect inside the Star-Dew Great Forest would largely hinge on whether DTN and the others decided to act. If it were only the Sky Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape involved, and they did not make too much disturbance, it was uncertain whether the sleeping vicious beasts of the forest would intervene. But if the three-eyed golden lion became involved, everything would change. Success, she thought, was partly fate and partly choice. If it fails, there's no great loss, just another Clear Sky Sect to crush when we close the net. Qian Renshui hugged Ye Shi's waist and replied casually, Exactly. Ye Shi nodded. All right, it's late, time to rest. Qian Renshui stood, still holding Ye Shi, and walked to the bed, switching off the light as she went. A few days later, in the Star-Dew Great Forest, Ghost Leopard made his way toward the core area. As he entered, he noticed the Titan Giant Ape watching him with enormous eyes while Xiaowu sat by the life lake, gently tending a spirit beast. The creature looked familiar, and the longer Ghost Leopard watched, the stranger his expression became. It strongly resembled the three-eyed golden lion the young miss had mentioned. Don't take this the wrong way, Ghost Leopard said quickly, keeping his voice low. I mean no harm. I'm only here to deliver something. He produced the letter Ye Shi had written and held it out toward Xiao Wu. After Xiao Wu accepted it, Ghost Leopard turned and left without another word. Ye Shi had warned him to take a detour if he saw the three-eyed golden lion. Xiao Wu opened the letter. After a brief scan, her brows knit, and when she reached the signature at the end, solemnity crept into her face. Sister Xiao Wu, a voice asked. The Sky Azure Bull Python emerged from the life lake. Ye Shi sent a letter. She asks if I know of a three-eyed golden lion and says the Clear Sky Sect, one of the upper three sects, has gathered several titled Douluo and intends to come to the Star-Dew Great Forest to capture the three-eyed golden lion. They're also coming to avenge Tang Hao. The letter claims Tang Hao was the titled Douluo you killed back then. Xiao Wu looked at the Sky Azure Bull Python, then down at the spirit beast beside her. The Titan Giant Ape and the Sky Azure Bull Python followed her gaze. The spirit beast was indeed the three-eyed golden lion named in the letter. The three-eyed golden lion rose, shook its mane, and stared intently at the paper in Xiao Wu's hand. If it had not misheard, humans were planning to capture it. The lion had lived in the Star-Dew Great Forest for as long as it could remember. It had never heard of humans trying to capture a spirit beast. It had always been a small overlord here. If it wanted to eat another beast, a swipe of its paw would be enough. Even the three gatekeepers before it were no challenge, and the deep sleepers of the forest would rise to defend it if needed. It let out a low, contemptuous growl, directed at Xiao Wu as if to ask whether they were truly capable. If not, it would call for reinforcements. It's just a letter for now. It may not be true, Xiao Wu said softly, reaching out to stroke the lion's fur. If they do come and we can't stop them, we'll call the elders. Sister Xiao Wu's calm reassurances were echoed by the Sky Azure Bull Python. The three-eyed golden lion considered this. From where it lay, it didn't need to go far into the life lake to summon aid. A single call would bring beasts pouring out. Convinced there was little to worry about, the lion settled back down and kept its gaze fixed on the direction of the forest. It was curious to see whoever dared try to capture it. If the three gatekeepers couldn't handle them, it would let out a call and later personally thrash two of the intruders. Watching the lion relax, Xiao Wu smiled faintly. She gathered a faint ripple of spirit power in her hand and tore the letter into pieces. A gentle breeze scattered the fragments away. Elsewhere in the core area, Ghost Leopard stood before a nest, contemplating. Frost moon foxes, rare. Even rarer to find cubs, he mused. Fluffy and adorable. Should I bring one back for the young miss? Young miss has one. Young lord shouldn't be left without one. He fingered his chin, eyes sweeping over the little cubs. In the end, he chose the two most beautiful and cuddly cubs and prepared to take them. At that moment, he felt a chill behind him and shifted just in time to dodge a sudden strike. He turned to find an adult frost moon fox, an 80,000-year-old, watching him intently. I'm taking these two cubs, Ghost Leopard called out. They'll have a far better life than with you, a cozier home too. Without waiting for an answer, he blurred forward in an afterimage and ran. The frost moon fox gave chase, but Ghost Leopard was faster. After a while, the fox returned to its nest to tend the other cubs. Satisfied he had escaped pursuit, Ghost Leopard slowed and stroked the plush cubs in his arms, smiling. They were adorably soft. He imagined the young miss and the young lord would love them. If they didn't, he'd keep them himself. Soon after, Ghost Leopard left the Stardew Great Forest. His spirit manifested behind him. 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black spirit rings glimmered beneath his feet as he increased his speed. In barely an instant, his figure vanished, leaving only faint afterimages where he had stood. Chapter 295, I Never Hold a Grudge, Frost Snow Pavilion, Lakeside Pavilion. In the picturesque pavilion, Yeshi sat quietly sipping tea. Pastries and fruit were laid out on the table before her. Behind her stood Ling Yuan, who had assimilated the 10-headed fierce yang serpent's inner core. Though Ling Yuan's spirit power remained at rank 96, her strength had increased several times over. Clear footsteps approached. Ye Qingxie arrived with Huo Wu Shuang, and Feng Xiaoqin in tow. Pavilion Master, these 3 wish to join the Frost Snow Pavilion, she announced, bowing to Ye Shi as her eyes swept over the newcomers. Ye Shi nodded lightly and gestured for them to sit. After the 3 took their seats, Ye Qingxue slipped off to the front hall to take care of formalities. Ye Shi regarded them with a faint smile. No need to be reserved, she said. I told you before you could join any time, and the benefits are generous. As members of Frost Snow Pavilion, you'll receive the same benefits as Shui Binger and Shui Yuer. Right now, Shui Binger and the others are helping me manage Snowy Domain City. Snowy Domain City is close to the lawless zone, but it's a good place for training. Do you prefer to stay in Heavendo City or go to Snowy Domain City? Yeshi sipped her tea, her tone affable. Feng Xiaoqin glanced first at Huo Wu, waiting for her answer, while Huo Wu Shuang scanned the pavilion and occasionally looked back at Ye Shi. Huo Wu considered for a moment, then answered with sober seriousness. Pavilion Master, we'd prefer to stay in Heavendo City. Snowy Domain City might not suit us. Ye Shi nodded without surprise. Very well. Come to Aunt Ye later to collect your tokens. If you plan to live at Frost Snow Pavilion, Huo Wu, you can choose a room in the Lakeside Pavilion or the rear hall. Huo Wu Shuang and Feng Xiaoqin, you'll only be able to pick rooms in the rear hall. The Lakeside Pavilion currently houses only girls, so it wouldn't be convenient for you. It's not favoritism, just practical. Pavilion Master, understood, Feng Xiaoqin said bluntly. Ye Qingxie had already explained that the courtyards flanking the Lakeside Pavilion's entrance were occupied by the 2 titled Douluo, Ghost Leopard and Demon Bear, so it made sense they couldn't be assigned there. Huo Wushuang did not speak, but nodded. You can go to the rear hall first to get acquainted with the place, Ye Shi added. I'll have a maid show you the way. As a maid appeared, Huo Wu rose, gave a small smile, and exchanged a look with Huo Wushuang and Feng Xiaoqian before following the maid out to explore. Just as they were leaving, Huo Wushuang leaned toward Huo Wu and lowered his voice. Sister, don't you think Ye Shi looks a bit fatter than before? Huo Wu paused mid-step, surprised, and glanced back at Ye Shi to gauge her reaction. The pavilion fell quiet. Ye Shi paused her drinking. Ling Yuan behind her fixed a sharp gaze on Huo Wushuang. Pavilion Master, Huo began, but Ye Shi waved a hand in a small, composed gesture and said, calmly, it's fine. Her expression didn't change. Her voice was placid. Huo Wu relaxed and patted Huo Wushuang on the head before leaving. After they stepped away, Ye Shi looked at her cup, then at her still flat stomach, eyes narrowing a fraction as she set the cup down. Ling Yuan, am I really fatter? she asked, suddenly serious. No. Ling Yuan looked her over and answered bluntly. Yishi's figure was naturally excellent. If not for her small bust, it would be flawless. Ling Yuan mused, then added, It seems it was just an offhand remark. Fortunately, Miss Ye never holds grudges. If she did, that fellow would have offended someone without even knowing it. Yeshi crossed her legs, lowering her gaze slightly, then shifted the topic. Ling Yuan, your spirit attribute is fire. Spend some time guiding him. Make sure you teach him well, she emphasized. Being personally instructable by a rank 96 peak Douluo was something many people yearned for but could not obtain. Yes, young miss. Ling Yuan inclined her head and replied readily. Miss Ye never held grudges. She settled matters when they happened. If she didn't settle them right away, they never escaped later. Ling Yuan thought that silently, but she showed no change in expression. Yeshi picked up a pastry and took a bite. As she chewed, a thoughtful look crossed her face. She wanted a sparring partner, not from the younger generation, though. Apart from her elder sister, none of the younger fighters were up to par. Her sparring prospects would have to come from the elder generation of powerhouses. With that decided, her gaze turned toward the seven-treasure glazed tile school. Ling Yuan, let's go. We're going to visit the seven-treasure glazed tile school. Setting the half-eaten pastry down, Yeshi rose. Ling Yuan didn't hesitate and followed immediately. She might not know why Yeshi suddenly wished to visit the seven-treasure glazed tile school, but her prime duty was to protect Yeshi. Wherever Yeshi went, she would go too. They left Frost Snow Pavilion and walked side by side toward the seven-treasure glazed tile school, Ling Yuan keeping a half-step behind Yeshi. Before long, they stood at the school's mountain gate. Before Yeshi could state her identity, the disciples at the entrance bowed deeply. Pavilion Master Ye, please wait a moment. I will go inform our sect master at once. The disciples spoke with marked respect, then turned and hurried into the school to bring the sect master word. Chapter 298, Ask for Advice Again. Before long, Ning Fengji came into view. He approached Yeshi with a warm smile. Pavilion Master Ye, sorry to have kept you waiting. I was just discussing matters with Clan Chief Yu, Yeshi replied. Ning Fengji's voice was like a spring breeze. Please forgive my abrupt intrusion. I actually came to see Senior Chen Xin, Yeshi said, smiling faintly, but with a thoughtful look in her eyes. It was unexpected to find Yu Yuanzhen here at the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School, yet she kept her expression composed and followed Ning Fengji into the main hall. Are you here to talk swordsmanship with Sword Uncle? Yes, Ning Fengji answered as they walked. My sword arts have improved a bit, so I wanted Senior Chen Xin to give me some guidance. I hope Master Ning won't mind. Yeshi smiled. What kind of talk is that? Of course not. Ning Fengji glanced at her briefly before withdrawing his gaze. Inside the hall, Yu Wanzhen and Yu Luomian sat on the left. Chen Xin, Gu Rong, and Ning Rongrong were on the right. Yu Luomian rose to greet Yeshi as she entered, addressing her as Pavilion Master Ye. Yu Wanzhen only gave a slight nod. Chen Xin and Gu Rong acknowledged her with polite inclinations of their heads, while Ning Rongrong regarded Yeshi with a pensive expression, as if weighing something. Yeshi, accompanied by Ling Yuan, took a seat on the right. Her blue eyes lingered on Yu Yuanzhen. He was not the same man he had been before, where he once brimmed with vigor, streaks of white threaded his hair, worry furrowed his brow, and that earlier spiritedness had faded. The arrogance at his core, however, remained unchanged. Ning Fengji took the main seat, lifted a cup of seven treasure glazed tile tea, and sipped. Clan Chief Yu, Pavilion Master Ye has arrived. You might ask her opinion on what we were just discussing. There was a calm indifference to his tone, but a warning bell rang in Yeshi's mind. Her instincts told her this request was not coincidental. Very well. Yu Wanzhen considered for a moment, then turned to her. Pavilion Master Ye, recently our Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan has been pressured by the Spirit Hall. Master Ning suggested just now that we bow for the time being and endure. What do you think? Yeshi glanced at Ning Fengji, her eyes darkened a fraction. Old fox, didn't he teach me what favors mean a few years ago? Today, he'll teach me a lesson about what it means to be involved and when to stay out of things, she thought, though she kept a polite smile. Clan Chief Yu, aside from Ning Rongrong, everyone here is my senior. This is a weighty matter. My abilities are limited, but since you asked, I'll offer my view. Master Ning's suggestion of temporary endurance is one option, she went on calmly, smiling politely. But blindly enduring won't solve everything. If the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan is feeling pressure from the Spirit Hall, wouldn't seeking allies be better? The upper three sects usually act together. The Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School is exceptionally wealthy, and the Clear Sky sect has once again risen to prominence. If the upper three sects support one another, what pressure could they not alleviate? Yuanjun nodded at her reasoning. True, everyone in the hall except Ning Rongrong was of an older generation than Ye Shi. Asking a junior to resolve a problem the seniors could not would be improper. Ning Fengji watched her with a faint, inscrutable look, but said nothing. She's slippery, Yuanjun murmured to himself with a touch of admiration. In a few words, she's extracted herself completely. Ning Fengji rubbed his fingers together, his gaze shifting subtly, then fell silent. Master Ning, Yuanjun continued, I think Pavilion Master Ye has a point. Especially her remark that blindly enduring cannot solve all problems. I agree. When Sect Master Tang of the Clear Sky sect finishes his affairs, we can consult him and see what the Clear Sky sect thinks, he added. Ning Fengji smiled and set the matter aside for the moment. Very well. Yuanzhen rose. Then I'll head back for now. When it's time to visit the Clear Sky sect, send word to me. He walked to the hall's exit, Yu Luomian at his side. Ning Fengji stood and saw them off. Ye Shi remained seated for a moment, then turned her attention to Chen Xin. Once the others had left the hall, she spoke quietly. Senior Chen Xin, my sword arts have improved a bit today. If you have time, might you give me some guidance? Chen Xin raised an eyebrow and smiled faintly. Of course. I have some time now. Let's go, he said, rising. Ye Shi followed him out, with Ling Yuan and Ning Rongrong trailing behind. In an open courtyard, Chen Xin and Ye Shi faced each other. Chen Xin drew a long sword. Just attack me, he said. I'll suppress my spirit power to match yours. Please be careful then, Senior, Ye Shi replied. The 10-winged slaughter angel spirit manifested behind her. 3 purple rings, 2 black, and 1 red spirit ring glowed intermittently at her feet. The slaughter sword materialized in her hand, and with a light tap of her foot, she launched the first assault. Ning Rongrong watched, eyes widening in astonishment. That's not right, she muttered. Her spirit ring configuration wasn't like this before, was it? Her gaze flicked toward Ling Yuan for an explanation, but Ling Yuan only watched the duel in silence. Without a response from Ling Yuan, Ning Rongrong turned her attention back to the match, keeping quiet as the 2 blades crossed and the courtyard filled with the clash of steel. Chapter 299, Winning or Losing is Not Important. 2 long swords met with a clear clang that rang through the arena. The impact shoved against Chen Xin, forcing him a step back. A cautious look crossed his face. Purely in terms of strength, Ye Shi now matched roughly an 8-ring spirit Douluo, and the blood-red spirit ring on her made that seem natural. After all, it was the first time Chen Xin had seen a 6-ring spirit emperor with a 100,000-year spirit ring. Chen Xin drew back his sword, and 9 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black, appeared at his feet. He lifted the 7-kill sword and struck toward Ye Shi. Since it was only a sword arts match, neither used spirit abilities, and Chen Xin had suppressed his spirit power to the same level as Ye Shi's. His style was almost purely offensive, every move packed attack, while Ye Shi was about 70% offense and 30% defense. She used only simple maneuvers, but they were direct and unadorned, each strike aimed for Chen Xin's vital points. The slaughter sword and the 7-kill sword rang together repeatedly. Ning Fengji and Gu Rong arrived beside Ning Rongrong and turned their attention to the duel. Grandpa Gu Rong, how's it looking? Ning Rongrong asked eagerly. Can Grandpa's sword win? They're evenly matched, Gu Rong said after watching for a moment. With both sides' spirit power suppressed, it's hard to say. If I had to pick, I'd give Chen Xin a slight edge. He knew that when Chen Xin had once given Ye Shi the 7-kill sword technique to study, the final move had been omitted. If Chen Xin used that missing final move unexpectedly, it could decide the match. Ning Rongrong nodded, only partly understanding, and watched in silence, quietly rooting for Chen Xin. Ling Yuan glanced on briefly and looked away. Both fighters retreated a few paces. Ye-shi shook her numbing wrist and advanced, thrusting the slaughter sword forward. Chen-shin blocked with the 7-kill sword, then flicked his blade upward before chopping down. Chen-shin's defense held, turning aside each of Ye-shi's blows, but with his spirit power suppressed to her level, he felt the strain. 20 rounds in, they were neck and neck. 50 rounds, still even. Around the 100th round, Ye-shi found a fleeting advantage, but Chen-shin slowly wore it down and turned the tables. Time ticked by. By the 200th exchange, Chen-shin noticed beads of sweat on Ye-shi's brow, and his expression grew thoughtful. "Be careful," he said, and they both retreated. Chen-shin raised the 7-kill sword high. Blood-colored characters reading "kill" flickered in front of the blade. 1, 2, 3, until the 7th character appeared, and the sword descended with an unstoppable aura. "I knew it," Ye-shi murmured. "The manual he gave me was missing the final move of the 7-kill sword." She didn't slow her pace. Channeling spirit power into the slaughter sword, she felt it vibrate. A blood-red sheen arced along the blade. The slaughter sword swept from low to high, sending a streak of blood-red sword chi that met the 7-kill sword head-on. The clash sent ripples of energy outward, kicking up clouds of dust that obscured everyone's view. When the dust drifted down, Ye-shi was sliding backward, several meters across the ground. With a simple adjustment, she regained her stance. Chen-shin also stepped back and steadied himself, but he had his right hand tucked behind his back, and faint drops of blood fell from his palm. "You've mastered the current form of that art?" Chen-shin said quietly, admiration in his eyes. "I have nothing more to teach you." Ye-shi retracted the slaughter sword, rubbing at her still tingly arm, and smiled politely. "Senior Chen-shin flatters me. I still have a lot to learn." Ling Yuan hurried to Ye-shi's side, concern written on her face. "Young miss, are you all right?" Ye-shi waved the worry away with a gentle smile. After loosening the numbness in her arm, she withdrew her spirit and moved to Ning Fengji. "Schoolmaster Ning, after Senior Chen-shin's guidance, I've gained some new insights. I'll return to Frost Snow Pavilion and come visit again another day." She walked off, accompanied by Ling Yuan, Ning Fengji following to see them out. Once they left, Ning Rongrong bounced forward to Chen-shin. "Grandpa Sword, did you win?" "Winning or losing isn't important," Chen-shin said. "I am a titled Douluo. Even with my spirit power suppressed to her level, I should have lost." He opened the hand he had hidden. A shock-induced wound ran across his palm, fresh blood still leaking. Ning Rongrong stared, shocked. Chen-shin smiled gently, ruffled her hair, and headed toward the main hall. Ning Fengji watched the pair disappear, a pensive look on his face, then returned to the 7-treasure glazed tile school. Later, in Heaven-Do City, Ye-shi strolled down a crowded street, casually nibbling a candied haw from a stall. Ling Yuan walked beside her and dropped a few bronze coins onto the vendor's tray. At a fork in the road, Ye-shi spotted a familiar group. Tang Hao leading, with Tang San and 4 elders of the Clear Sky sect, plus over 100 disciples from the Clear Sky and Tang sects, all moving off together. Ye-shi's expression darkened slightly as she watched them go. "They're headed to the Star Do Great Forest," Ling Yuan observed. "I hope things go smoothly for Ghost Leopard." Ye-shi said calmly, taking another bite of her haw. Chapter 298, Clear Sky Sect's Revenge. Ling Yuan followed Ye-shi's gaze. "Looks like the Clear Sky sect still has people stationed there." "They sent 4 of the 5 elders. Counting Tang Hao, that's 5 titled Douluo," Ye-shi replied. Ling Yuan murmured, "It's normal for someone to be posted there." "Let's head back to Frost Snow Pavilion," Ye-shi said. "Later, we'll send people to gather more information around the Star Do Great Forest." He waved to Ling Yuan and led the way back to Frost Snow Pavilion. On a slightly ancient road, Tang San looked first at Tang Hao ahead, then at the 4 Clear Sky sect elders and the 100-odd disciples from both the Clear Sky and Tang sects behind him. His gaze drifted involuntarily toward the Star Do Great Forest. Hatred flared in his eyes. The news of Tang Hao's death in the Star Do Great Forest was clear in his mind, and though he wanted revenge more than anything, the thought that it would soon be theirs made his heart buzz with anticipation. "Titan giant ape, blood for blood," Tang San vowed silently, clenching his hands. Tang Hao seemed to sense Tang San's feelings, but said nothing. He led the group straight toward the Star Do Great Forest, moving so fast they vanished from sight in a blink. Several days later, at the edge of the Stardo Great Forest, dust covered Tang Hao and the others stepped in without hesitation. Walking through the forest, Tang San kept his eyes on Tang Hao. "Big uncle, can I kill the Titan giant ape myself? I want to avenge father with my own hands." Tang Hao stared into the depths of the forest, nodded once, then shook his head. "If everything goes well, you can deliver the finishing blow. If not, if something happens to you, how could I face father in the afterlife?" Tang San asked, voice solemn. Tang Xiao's tone matched the moment. Tang San nodded seriously. They pressed on. When they reached the core area, Tang Xiao and the four elders stopped at the same time. They'd felt a probing mental force a moment earlier. "Little San, be careful," Tang Xiao warned, then led the way toward the deepest part of the forest, the Life Lake. The Sky Azure Bull Python rose from the Life Lake, its gaze dark as it looked toward the trees. "Sister Xiaowu, they're here," it said in a low voice. "Let them come," Xiaowu replied. Xiaowu unfurled from the back of the Titan giant ape. The Titan giant ape also pushed itself up from the ground, ready to fight. The only one lounging unmoved was the three-eyed golden lion, basking lazily by the lake. It had heard the exchange, but, confident in its power within the Life Lake's influence, saw no need to get up. Outside the Life Lake's sphere, Tang Xiao raised a hand and signaled the elders and disciples to halt. "You all guard the outer perimeter here," he ordered. "The elders and I will go in first to assess the situation. Little San, these disciples will be under your command." Glancing briefly at the time of day, Tang Xiao stepped into the Life Lake's range. The other four elders followed. No sooner had they crossed the threshold than an enraged roar shook the air and a massive fist came crashing down from above. Tang Xiao's clear sky hammer spirit manifested in his hand. 9 spirit rings flickered around him. He swung the hammer up to meet the fist. The collision cracked the ground, sending tremors outward. The four elders reacted at once, releasing their own spirits and sending clear sky hammers toward the Titan giant ape. An energy orb shot out from the Life Lake and struck first, smashing into the hammers and creating ripples of force. The Titan giant ape was driven back. Xiaowu leapt off the Titan giant ape's shoulder and froze when she saw Tang San. "Tang San!" she snapped, teeth bared, anger flashing in her eyes. A transformed spirit beast. Tang Xiao glanced at Xiaowu and then at the sunning three-eyed golden lion before pulling his gaze away. "Little San, leave the 200,000-year spirit beast to us," he said. "You handle the remaining transformed spirit beast and the three-eyed golden lion." As he spoke, he released his 7th spirit ring. The clear sky hammer in his hand swelled like a small mountain and came down on the Titan giant ape. One elder joined Tang Xiao against the giant ape, while the other 3 titled Douluo engaged the Sky Azure Bull Python. Their battle sent shockwaves through the forest, startling birds and sending energy ripples in all directions. Xiaowu watched Tang San approach, moving to stand before the three-eyed golden lion and releasing her spirit. 5 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 1 black, spun beneath her feet. Tang San bore a similar surprise at the sight. Then he released his blue-silver grass spirit, producing 2 yellow and 2 purple spirit rings around him. The Tang and Clear Sky disciples behind him also opened their spirits and formed up. "Xiaowu," Tang San said, voice thick with feeling, "I never thought we'd meet again on the battlefield. If you leave now, I can let the past go," Xiaowu snapped, clenching her hands. "That's impossible," Tang San answered, firm. "My father's death can't be forgiven." Tang San moved first. Xiaowu paused only briefly before charging. The disciples under Tang San surged forward as well. Xiaowu tried to interpose herself, but they were too many. Several broke through the line and pressed toward the three-eyed golden lion. The three-eyed golden lion rose slowly, then met the first attacker with a single swipe that sent the human flying. A three-eyed golden lion wasn't defenseless. A 15,000-year-old one could rival a 100,000-year spirit beast. Though this lion wasn't that old, it approached 10,000 years, and fighting off some spirit ancestors posed no difficulty. With a powerful stretch, it bounded forward and charged into the fray.